Welcome back. This is Teddy Lim, your host from John L. Scott Real Estate. We just got done going over the house section and what is important to us about the search. Now, what we're going to be going over is the offer making or presenting process. Okay, this is what we have been working towards. Okay, it's showtime. We've gone through the money section of determining our loan. We've gone through knowing what our down payment's going to be, what our closing costs are going to be, what our monthly expenses and utilities are going to be, our monthly payment's going to be for the house. We've gone through the search and taken a look at a few homes. Now is the most important step. This is when we actually put our bid in to our next home, our dream home, our forever home, or what have you, or our first home. By the way, most homes that first-time home buyers buy doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be your forever home. But I just threw it in there just in case, so you could familiarize yourself with that term. Anyways, putting in an offer. What makes a compelling offer? What are the elements of an offer that a buyer makes to buy a home? Okay, you're in the right place. Let's say we already found the perfect house that we want to put an offer in. The first thing that you're going to need in an offer is obviously the address of the property. The next thing is our offer price. Okay. Third thing is going to be the expiration date of our offer, and I'll go over why that's important in just a second. There is the closing date, which means when title will be transferred to you, the buyer. Okay, possession date. And a lot of people misconstrue closing date to mean possession date, but as we'll go through it, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're the same day, although usually it does. But what ends up happening sometimes, especially in the market that we have right now, is that a lot of sellers are trying to sell their house so they can buy another house. And what ends up happening is some sellers, which makes sense, totally makes sense, quite understandable, they don't want to move twice. And so what normally happens is their listing agent, their agent actually makes a request or negotiates it into the contract in order to allow them to stay at the property while they go and search for a home. Now, in the state of Washington, the maximum time allowed for that is 59 days. And in 59 days, if it goes past that, your loan will have to be modified in order for it to be sort of like an investment loan or commercial loan. And we don't want to get into that, but just know that the maximum time a seller is allowed to stay in the house without affecting the buyer's loan is 59 days. Okay, so we need to know the address. We need to know how much we're offering to the property. We need to know when our offer expires. It's normally 2 days after we submit the offer. Fourth is when our closing date is going to be, or when we are going to transfer title or get the keys. Possession date, like I said, it is going to be when it is agreed that the new homeowner will be moving into the property. And number 3 is your down payment amount. It's pretty self-explanatory. What type of loan or financing you're going to be using. Okay, we kind of go over that in the money section. Eighth thing is going to be your earnest money. Okay, and earnest money is a very important part of your offer. A lot of times it is what will indicate or determine to the seller how serious or able you are about buying the property. Okay, and we'll go over that in just a second. Address, offer price, expiration date, closing date, possession date, down payment, loan financing, earnest money, and the other section would be contingencies. Okay. Contingencies are backup plans that allow a buyer to back out of a purchase legally, while doing their due diligence on the property in and of itself. And we're gonna go ahead and dive deep into that once we get into the inspection section of the house portion. And there's also going to be a section of that in the key section and bonus section as well too. Okay, so stay tuned for that. But before I end this video portion of the house section, I want to tell you a little bit about the earnest money. Okay, so earnest money is a deposit that you make along with submitting your offer. Now, it is normally what we would consider a wager or a hold deposit. And that tells the seller that, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we are serious buyers. We are willing to put this amount of money down in order to let you know that we're not going to be looking at any other houses anymore. And what usually indicates to the seller how serious a buyer is about buying that property is the amount or the size of that deposit, which makes sense, because when you're talking about a wager, there is a promise that says that you will perform the terms of the offer that you actually wrote down. And you want to take a look at the offer. The purchase and sale agreement is what we call it, as a contract, because it is a contract. It is a written contract that is telling the seller that I am willing to go under contract with you to actually buy your house or buy your property. And this earnest money, which normally is a 1% to 2%, okay, of the purchase price, PP for short, 1 to 2% of the purchase price, is usually enough to indicate or to discourage a buyer from not following through what they said that they would do. Okay? Now, in terms of contingencies, and we'll go over that again, like I said, deep dive on that. If for some reason a buyer went through the entire process, the entire purchase and sale agreement of doing their due diligence in finding out whether the house is the house that they want to buy, and if for some reason both buyer and seller reach the last day, the final day of closing, and if for some reason the buyer decides to back out just because they either have cold feet or they decide that they don't want to house it, they don't want to buy the house anymore, or for whatever reason it is, the seller is entitled to that earnest money. Okay? Because based on the purchase and sale agreement, which is once again a contract to purchase a house or to sell a house, it goes both ways, buyers and sellers, that aside from say an inspection contingency or a title contingency or an appraisal contingency or the financing contingency. Again, these are terms that I'll familiarize with you and I'll break it down once we get there. Is that what the function of an earnest money deposit is? Okay, it beholdens the buyer to perform, like I said, or follow through with what they said they were going to do in the purchase and sale contract. Okay, so in summary, the offer section includes address, offer price, expiration date, the closing date, when the transaction is going to close or transfer title, possession date, when the buyer is entitled to move in or have possession of the property. There's your down payment. There's what type of loan you're going to be using, the earnest money, and the contingencies, which what we're going to go through right now in this next section is the inspection contingency and the process of making sure that the home you're buying passes all of the requirements for an inspection. Okay? So, thank you once again. Stay tuned. Hope you're learning a lot, and we'll check in with you in just a second. Cheers.